Good morning. It's Jim Gulick here with Seth Matthew, and we are the Dr. Jimbo Love Show remote. Welcome to our broadcast. We have a huge weekend for NFL football. There's a couple things we want to talk about initially, and one is the transfer portal, and Seth and I are going to take opposite sides, and we are going to discuss this as fully as possible. Super Wild Card Weekend is featuring a Monday night game. Monday night games have never, in the NFL, ever been a playoff game. What do you think of that?
So I love it. I mean, the more you spread out these games, the more there's something to look forward to watch. I hate when you go into days and you don't have like NFL playoffs to watch because they condense it into one day, which is great for the one day, but I really do like to spread out the games. Just gives you something to look forward to, and it just makes the week go faster when you have more things to look forward to.
Absolutely. So what we have on schedule for today, just to give you kind of a preview, is the first game is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals, who have not won a playoff game since 1991. 1991, okay? And they are playing the Raiders. The game is in Cincinnati. Cincinnati is ranked 4th. The Raiders are ranked 5th. We're going to talk more about this in a bit, but let's shift gears and let's go back, and what we're going to do, and this is a new feature for our show, and it's going to be going forward. Seth and I are going to pick topics, and we are going to take opposite sides, and we're going to have a discussion. So we're going to talk about the transfer portal in the NCAA. Now, this transfer portal, we're going to use it basically because we're going to talk about the NCAA football, but the transfer portal is for all sports, female and male. So we want to make sure that people understand this. But we're going to use it for college football because college football is the major moneymaker of all sports programs. Matter of fact, most colleges are supported, all their athletic programs are supported by their football team. Now, that's just the way it goes. The biggest stadiums, and if you're in a Power 5 conference, you are getting huge TV revenue.
It doesn't even matter if you're good. At the end of the day, it's just being in the right conference. At any SEC team, it doesn't matter if you're dead last. You look at those stadiums when you watch the games where other teams travel to them, still a full stadium no matter what.
And it's not just the stadium, folks. Okay, it is behind the scenes. Now, I had an opportunity, we're going to talk a little college hockey, but North Dakota State has a facility that I was lucky enough because of my friend Scott Howard, who is an assistant coach for Cornell Hockey. He gave me direct access to what it is. It is the best facility for college hockey, I believe. And what do you think, Seth?
Yeah, so the University of North Dakota is who they are. They used to be the
is it University of North Dakota or is it North Dakota State?
It's University of North Dakota. North Dakota State is going to be the Bison, which is where Carson Wentz and all them went.
Okay, so University of North Dakota is in Fargo, right?
Yep, and you're going to have you're going to end up having a state-of-the-art facility. There was a huge controversy over it. The owner of the stadium put all the Sioux labels, and the name had to be changed. And he told the school that they could kick rocks if they didn't like his stadium. They ended up keeping it. He ended up passing away, unfortunately.
They named the stadium after him, right?
Yep.
Ralph something?
And so now it is the Fighting Hawks, but what they couldn't do is take all the logos out. So he engraved the Fighting Sioux symbol pretty much everywhere in that stadium that you could.
Good.
And so, I mean, he ended up creating a stadium that people are now rivaling against NHL. They said if you put it up against the NHL stadiums, that'd be a top 5 stadium. And that's for a D1 college.
Absolutely, and I've got the video to prove it. So if you go to our YouTube channel is called the Dr. Jimbo Love Show -remote. If you just put in Dr. Jimbo Love Show, unfortunately, my former radio station is pirating my name and placing a podcast called the Dr. Jimbo Love Podcast with somebody that's not me. And that's going to be legally taken care of in the next 3 weeks, thank God. But I want you to go to our channel. I am going to post videos of the behind the scenes, the workout facility, the locker room, and the actual stadium and it is off the charts. I showed Seth a little bit about it last week, and what did you think?
No, it's amazing. I mean, I love it. St. Cloud State has a great facility as well. But the crazy thing, what people need to realize, when you look at D1 football and you have 130 teams, most likely a lot of those players aren't going pro. But when you go to this lucrative 60-team D1 college hockey, that a lot of these guys you're looking at going pro. St. Cloud State has produced about 30, 35 players, not as much as like DU, but very successful players. Matt Cullen, Ryan Malone, both have won Stanley Cups. At one point, the Carolina Hurricanes, when they won the Cup back in the early 2000s, they had 8 St. Cloud State players on that team.
Wow.
And so it's really cool to see.
Talk a little bit about Herb Brooks. And when Herb Brooks won the Miracle on Ice, he had how many of his own kids playing for him in that Olympic team?
So what basically the Miracle team was a mix of East Coast and St. Cloud State, or the U of M at the time. I don't believe St. Cloud State was a dominant program back then. So you had the U of M, you had Boston University, teams that met in the championship all the time. And he basically split them up, put them together, and then created this crazy bond that they did the impossible, which is really cool. I mean, it's not going to be as big as the Miracle this year, but there are no pro players that are going to be in this Olympics. St. Cloud State sending 2 of their players to go play in the Olympics. I recognize some of the names. Aaron Ness is from Roseau, Minnesota. He ended up playing at the U of M. I believe he's in some amateur pro league. Me and him actually fought my senior year. It was actually pretty fun. But yeah, looking at a lot of it, you look at a lot of these Minnesota players. This is going to be amazing. St. Cloud State's head coach is going to be the assistant coach of of the Olympic team this year.
Oh, excellent. So, what are your feelings, though? And again, we're a little bit going on a little bit of a tangent here, which is fine. What are your feelings about the fact that the NHL has said, you know what, we're not going to take our best players and allow them to represent the United States of America on a world level?
You know what? I like it in the sense of it's going to be interesting to see, because a lot of players, not a lot, but some of the players were talking about retiring just so they could play in the Olympics and then come back out of retirement after. And obviously that's not happening right now. But you look at it, what the Olympics is missing this year. You have Ovechkin from Russia that is a dominant force that's not going to end up playing. You're looking at Rantanen. You're looking at Cale Makar from Canada. So all these teams are going to be weakened. It's not Team USA that's the only one that's hurt. Right. But there is a pro-Russian league. Jaromir Jagr dipped out of the NHL for a bit to go over there to play because he got more money. And so, I mean, there's still a lot of talent going to be in this Olympics.
Good.
What I like most about it, I like it, the NBA does a lot of it too, because the NBA had a lot of pro players opt out of the Summer Olympics, and we had a lot of college up-and-coming players. It's cool to see how our up-and-coming college players match up against the best of the best. And I find it really enjoyable. I mean, is a gold medal out of the question? No. But it's just going to be really, really fun to watch these young guys go out there.
Good. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about a big and upcoming game, which is St. Cloud State is coming to play here in Denver, correct?
Unfortunately, something. So,
oh no! Don't tell me there was a COVID.
There was some COVID thing.
Oh, you got to be kidding!
But the weird thing is, me and Colton, he's my bar manager downstairs. We're talking about this morning. They're still playing, just not each other, and we haven't figured out why. Got to do a little bit more research into it.
I was going to go to that game.
Yeah, and I actually have tickets to that game, and they didn't transfer my tickets over to the St. Cloud game, which we're coming in February now. Nebraska Omaha is coming here this week.
Well, okay. So, again, we feel very, very badly for anyone that contracts COVID, and I'm just sick to my stomach because it's the first news that I heard of this, because I was really looking forward to going to that game.
Yeah, I had tickets for both games, and they switched it to Nebraska. And I mean, no matter what, either way, I'm going to watch DU play. Their team's intact.
Well, I'll come down and join you, Seth. I'll just pick up a ticket and then I'll come by.
Yeah.
I used to live basically walking distance from DU's hockey and basketball stadium, so I went there all the time, and it is a great facility. Denver University does it right. They have a really great fan base. I just absolutely love it. I was close friends with the basketball coach, the former basketball coach. He was let go, and then they brought in Chauncey Billups' brother, who they've now let go as well.
Yeah.
The gentleman that was my friend, Rand, he played actually for Princeton. So he ran that motion offense that was really famous in the 80s. And if you remember the Princeton teams from the 80s, they would knock off some people because no one knew how to defense that. And this was our coach here at DU who was running the exact same offense, who I'm so sorry to see go. But
well, and people got to remember, this isn't as sad that it's rescheduled. I mean, it's inconvenient.
Do you think they'll still play?
Yeah, so they moved it to February 4th and 5th.
Oh, that's no big deal.
So
they didn't cancel it.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's not like college basketball where CSU kind of got messed up because they had some good games lined up. I mean, they've lost recently, but those games now are never going to be replayed, and that's going to hurt you at the end of the year.
Yep.
College hockey is still in they can reschedule area. So
Good.
No games lost.
Good.
So,
Well, your ticket will be valid probably for February.
So
I'm
unfortunately,
guessing.
the weird thing is, if you bought your ticket not from DU and you bought it out of like Vivid Seats or StubHub or anything like that, they didn't move your game. You have to go to Nebraska Omaha.
Okay.
Which
makes you buy another ticket, but you know what?
Yeah.
It'll be worth it because St. Cloud State is ranked what?
right now we're ranked, depending what poll you look at, we're 7. They're both top 10 teams.
And Seth can say we because he went to school there.
Yep, graduated. Got a health and physical education degree. And
Very good.
Now at CU Denver for my master's in special education.
Excellent. And his wife to be, his fiance, is a special ed teacher at what is the name of the school?
Northfield High School.
Northfield High School. Very good. Cheyenne, we give you a shout out. All right, so let's talk about the transfer portal. Okay, so what we're going to do, and this is a new format for us. I'm going to go first. I'm going to do all the positive things that I see for the transfer portal. Then Seth is going to go and counterpoint me, and then we're going to have a discussion between the two of us and see what you guys think. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what Seth thinks. It matters only what you think, and hopefully we can give you enough information that you can have a feeling for this. First of all, let me explain what a transfer portal is for those of you that don't know what a transfer portal is. Transfer portal is not like you see on TV in that commercial where someone jumps through, what was that? Is it the Dr. Pepper commercial where he jumps through?
And then they end up on a team?
Rico's time is now! The transfer portal is set up, and the way I understand it is basically if you are not happy, then basically you can go and transfer to any school that you would want to go to. Okay? Now, in the old days when I was playing in college, once you graduated high school and you entered a college, you had 5 years to play 4 years of eligibility. That meant that you got one redshirt year. But if you transferred, okay, say I transferred from Division II to Division I, I did not have to sit a year, okay? But if I transferred from Division I to Division I had to sit a year out.
And they recently took that away.
That is the best thing ever. Now, it was really interesting. If you were Division I and you transferred down to Division II or Division III, you didn't have to sit out. So I played Division II college basketball at Mansfield University. We played in the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, which is probably the top 3 conferences in the nation for Division II. The entire state of Pennsylvania, every single state school is a Division II school. Now, why did I go to Division II and play there? Well, it's kind of a long story, but I was going to go to Northeastern, and the coach changed, so I was screwed. I wanted to go to Vermont. The same thing happened. I was ready to go to Lemoyne, which is Division II, and Coach Beeline, which everybody knows from the University of Michigan. He was also at Richmond. He was also at West Virginia, and he was recently with the Cleveland Cavaliers, recruited me, and told me in May of my senior year, I'm sorry, but the athletic director's kid is taking your scholarship. So I went to Mansfield University and walked on. My parents both graduated there in 1966. The coach told me I had no chance of even making the team. I started second semester and started for the rest of the year. So I proved him wrong. But now, the reason I love the transfer portal is because I played 2 years at Mansfield University under a coach, Coach Ed Wilson, who just recently passed. One of the best coaches, matter of fact, John Chaney, who used to coach at Temple, he and Coach Wilson were best friends and coached in the same league. John Chaney begged my coach to go to Temple to be his assistant. So he retired my sophomore year. The assistant coach took over. My assistant coach was as dumb as a box of rocks. What I would have loved to do was transfer to another school, but I was looking at graduate school and I had a full ride offer for graduate school. So I couldn't take a year off. Or I would have lost my graduate school scholarship. So what did I do? I said, am I going to be a professional basketball player? Absolutely not. But I would have loved to have transferred. I couldn't transfer. So let's talk about the reason why I love the transfer portal for these kids today. Okay? One, it is great for position players. Now, what's a position player? A position player is a quarterback, a running back, a tight end, a wide receiver, a linebacker. People that are the premier players on a team, those people have to play for a position coach. Now, the problem is what happens if you get to your university and your position coach doesn't like you? And that happens all the time, okay? The best people that you see playing in college football aren't necessarily the best players on the team. Let me tell you, okay? They're the players that won the job. Now, how do you win the job if you're a quarterback, running back, a position player? Well, you have to convince your position coach, because the head coach is not going to override the position coach ever. Now, is that fair? No, I don't think so at all. Now, most of the time, the position coach is on board with the head coach. But let me tell you, in these big programs like Nick Saban, do you think Nick Saban has time to go and say, well, no, I'm going to do an individual analysis of our punt returner, and I think that our punt returner is going to be such and such? No, he's not. What is he going to do? He is going to go to the position coach and say, who's the best you got? And he's going to trust him because it's his guy. Now, that's not fair. That's not fair. That guy that wants to return punts for Alabama may have come to Alabama because he wants to play for Nick Saban. He doesn't come because he wants to play for the position coach. Now, do you meet the position coach? You do on your recruiting visit. Okay? Let me tell you about some of my assistant coaches at Mansfield University. Okay? We had a revolving door of assistant coaches. All right? Some of them were great. Some of them were absolute idiots. Okay? Now, I went through it, and my assistant coaches hated me and did everything they could to sabotage me from starting. The only reason that I was able to start was because in practice, I would absolutely bust my tail and I would beat up, okay, physically speaking, on the basketball court legally, anybody that challenged me as the point guard. What happens when a position coach leaves? It happens all the time. All right, you watch, we'll use Alabama as an example.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen the offensive coordinator leave Alabama?
For a head coaching position?
Yeah.
Quite often.
How many times have you seen the defensive coordinator?
Quite often.
Okay, so when when these coaches leave, what about their position coaches that work underneath them? What do you think happens when a new defensive coordinator or a new offensive coordinator comes in? What happens?
Then they relook at the players.
Well, they relook at the players, but they also get rid of. Remember, the new coach that comes in brings his guys.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about LSU, for example. Okay, LSU just picked up Brian Kelly, right?
Yep.
Now, do you think that any of Ed Orgeron's coaches are going to stay for Brian Kelly?
You know what? I can see defensive side because I think Brian Kelly needs that help. But overall,
With a new defensive coordinator, do you think there's going to be a new defensive coordinator?
I think, you know what, I bet you he's going to do an interview. He's going to see what he feels comfortable with.
Sure.
Now, if he doesn't feel comfortable with the direction they're going, I could see him switching out those guys. Because at the end of the day, your job is based on results. It's not based on friendships.
Right. Okay. So, more times than not, when an offensive coordinator leaves, the quarterback coach, the receiver coach, the running back coach, and sometimes even the offensive line coach leaves the program. Now, where does that leave the kids that are there? Okay, is it fair to a kid who's already declared his major? He's a junior. What does he do? He has to make a choice between football and the rest of his life. Now, it's an easy choice if you're going to be in a draft pick, okay? End of story, okay? But what about the rest of, the 95% that don't get drafted? What happens for personal reasons, okay? At the end of your sophomore year, your girlfriend gets pregnant, okay, from high school. What are you going to do? You have to transfer someplace close, right? So the transfer portal allows you to be able to go to a school that might be close, or her school. That's another reason. What happens if you change majors? Say all of a sudden you're majoring in mechanical engineering and you say, you know what, I don't like it. Mm-hmm. My program here, and let's just use Alabama, LSU, South Carolina. Now I find that University of Georgia has my program and is number one in the nation. So what do? I, again, have to make a choice. Do I stay with the football program, or can I go to another program where I can try to better myself as a career person?
But if you're going for your career, why would you transfer to play football? Or play any other
you should
sport?
be able to do both. The transfer portal allows you to do both, right?
It has its double-edged sword.
Wait, you're going to have your chance.
Oh, I know.
Hang on. Okay. Illness in a family. Say, we've got a COVID pandemic going on. We've got cancers. We've got all these things. What if all of a sudden your mom or dad comes down with something horribly and life-threatening? You grew up in New York, and you're playing football in Colorado. Well, that's a pretty long trip home. Mm-hmm. You know what? I don't know about you, but family comes first for me. If my mom or dad got sick, I would have transferred to Syracuse, or I would have transferred to Pitt, or I would transfer to some other Division I school. And why would I have to sit out? Now, if I sit out, again, it goes back to the whole thing. It messes up your future plans. Because you start trying to get into graduate school, medical school, and law school after your sophomore year, okay? All right, say a player can move to a better conference. We just saw University of Wyoming get absolutely raped by the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Both quarterbacks and there was a couple other great players that left out Wyoming. Why? Why did they leave? Well, it's simple. Wyoming runs the ball 3 downs out of 4. What quarterback wants to hand the ball off 3 times? If they have an opportunity to transfer from the Mountain West to a Power 5 conference, okay, as a quarterback, as a running back, it's going to better them chance for them to better their career, correct?
Yeah, but quick question on that. Did you not know that before?
No, you don't. Because sometimes when you come out of high school, you're not good enough to make one of these Power 5 conference teams. After you play for 2 years, now understand something. When you go to college, it's all about your high school career is over, okay? I don't care if you're a 5-star recruit. If you're a 3-star recruit, I'll tell you what, I would recruit, if I was a college football coach, a ton of 3 and 4-star people. Most of them have chips on their shoulder, and when they get there, that's when the real work begins. When I got to college, I became a completely different basketball player than I was out of high school. Mm-hmm. I went to a small high school, I had 120 in my graduating class, and I had to travel hours to find games to play. When I got to college, I got a chance to play against guys that were very, very good. And during the summers, I worked camps like Syracuse, I worked Pitt's basketball camp, because the counselor games gave me a chance to play against the guys that I saw on TV. Guess what? Those guys still remember me. Because you know what? I went at them with everything I had. They were out there having a good time, right? Not me. I was there to prove to them that I was a better ball player than them. Was I better than all of them? No. But I found out who I was better than. Okay? And guess what? I run into these guys now 25, 30 years later. I'll see them at a Nuggets game. I'll see them at a regional championship game. And they'll walk up to me and shake my hands and say, you know, you're the biggest pain in the ass in the world. And I go, thank you. All right. Last thing is, red shirt. The red shirting, say you're a senior, okay? And you've already graduated. You have an opportunity to go through the transfer portal, and you can transfer to another school. Okay, do you remember the guy from
Brandon Whedon?
Okay, yeah, or the guy from Duke, the guy who was he was a point guard for Duke. His name was Greg. Oh my goodness gracious! But he played for Duke from 05 to 09, and he was the starting quarterback for Duke. He transferred because he had another year of eligibility and went to Syracuse University and became their starting quarterback. Greg starts with a P. We'll check it and I'll let you know. But what an opportunity for this gentleman. He got his master's paid for, and he's got a chance to play for Syracuse as a quarterback after being the point guard for Duke for 4 years.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
That's a cool story.
That's all I've got, Seth. Go ahead. Prove me wrong.
So my biggest thing with the transfer portal is you're ruining all the rags to riches stories. Like Tom Brady stuck with Michigan, and how often did he get to play? Not that much. He ended up going all the way to the senior year, to splitting time, to overtaking it, basically getting passed up in the draft and making it. Now, if I just want playing time and I'm just going to leave to another school, there's no struggle there. Oh, it's too hard to replace so-and-so, so I'm going to go on a team so I can go. It doesn't make you a better player. At the end of the day, you're taking the easy road out. And I think that's what we're typically seeing now in college football is if you look at the transfer portal this year, 1,400 kids are in it.
1,400.
1,400 out of 130 teams, so roughly 11 players per NCAA.
And is it okay if I jump in a little
bit?
Yeah,
okay. That's perfect.
All right, let me ask you this, Seth. There's a whole secondary market out there that there's coaches that are basically trying to steal these players. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I mean by that simply is this. Say you're a 5-star recruit, and understand when you're a 5-star recruit, you maybe have 5 of your final schools, right, that you're thinking of. All of a sudden, you go to Alabama, LSU, South Carolina, Georgia. You're not playing. Hey, there's a whole secondary market out there of assistant coaches that are on the phone calling these guys. Is that fair?
See,
is that fair?
I think the transfer portal has opened up a whole new way of cheating in D1 football.
Totally.
Because here's the thing. You get X amount of scholarships, right?
Yes.
So all of a sudden, there's a year that you lose out on a guy and somebody else takes him. While the second-year player that didn't play too much, but he was number 1 on my draft board the year before, all of a sudden I reapproach him and I can steal him away.
Right.
So all of a sudden you're keeping the Alabamas, you're keeping the Georgias at the top of the top. Because as much as
the transfer portal allows them to distribute. Say Georgia. Say you've got running back wise, you've got 5 running backs that are 5-star recruits.
Okay.
How many of them are going to play?
But that's the thing. So now what am I doing here? Is now maybe I'll send one. As much as I love the University of Minnesota, I'll pick them because Ibrahim Mohammed, thanks for staying. I appreciate it.
Sure.
You played all 5 years. You're top 6 in the NFL for being drafted. Next year you could even go higher. But the issue is if you were to leave, you're only, let's say Ohio State had a deficit where they could only get a rookie in and all their guys opted to the draft. They reloaded, now Minnesota's screwed. You're keeping the top at the top and you're keeping the bottom at the bottom.
I don't agree because, so what you're saying, Seth, is you're saying that the haves stay the haves and the have-not. No, the transfer portal distributes talent.
And how much have we seen, though, distribute talent? Let's look at the top 25. It doesn't change that much.
No, exactly. Now, good point. We have 1,400, according to Seth, people in the transfer portal. That's a huge redistribution of wealth, right? So how can you tell me that a school how many of these kids from the Georgias, the Power Fives, are transferring to lower conferences because they get a chance to play?
See, that's the thing, though. It's not just them. It's if they transfer lower, cool, you're making them a little bit better. But those top teams are literally taking the best of the best out of
They
these
already
schools.
do out of high school.
They do, but the big
Alabama has had the #1 recruiting class for the last 8 of them the last 9 years.
But the issue is they only have X amount of scholarships, so maybe they didn't have it for that top 5 guy, but then they could probably have a conversation with that guy and say, hey, go to Minnesota for a year, and when I have a scholarship available next year, I'll steal you.
So how many people that you saw standing on the sideline, and we'll just talk about the national championship game. How many of those people that you saw standing on the sideline for Georgia and Alabama who may have not played could transfer to even stay in a Power 5 conference, like say, they go to South Carolina, or they go to Oklahoma,
See, and
they can play.
I think they need to revise the rule, because here's the biggest issue with it. They threw this out there, and then they panicked when everyone complained about a 1-year sit-out, and they haven't actually made rules really on the transfer portal.
No, they haven't.
Because this is I
agree.
I don't have an issue with the walk-ons. I don't have an issue with someone not on scholarship, because they're paying their way and they're going through. But if I commit to you and give you a scholarship, out-of-state tuition on these schools, I'll go with DU, for example.
Okay, Seth,
you're committing $500,000.
Let me bring this up. So the coaches are allowed to go and better their position. Let's talk about Lincoln.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, let's talk about your coach. Let's talk about Oklahoma, and talk about, you know, the deal that I told you the deal he got, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So the deal that this gentleman got, okay, when he went to USC, is he had 2 houses in Oklahoma, in Norman. Guess what? Not did they say, oh, go ahead, we'll help you sell your house. The University of South Carolina, USC, bought his house at the top of the market, and we don't know what they bought it for because they don't have to disclose it.
Yeah.
Maybe they gave him, say it's a $2 million house. Maybe they gave him $6 million. There's an extra $4 million. It doesn't have to be disclosed, okay? And they gave him a whole bunch of other stuff, right? So he leaves. Well, what does it do? It leaves people like Lincoln Riley and the rest of the people at Oklahoma screwed if you can't transfer.
Well, and that's why I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a revision of the rule I want. So when a new coach comes in, I think he should have the option of, if somebody wants to transfer without missing a year, that the coach has to release him, because Kayla Williams played the whole time. He basically was built. They could build a program around.
Why is Caleb Williams considering transferring, do you think?
To follow Lincoln Riley. He's going to go to USC. I will bet money that he ends up there.
Now, how about this? How about Oklahoma hires an offensive coordinator that's just like the guy at Wyoming, and he wants to hand the ball off? Now, Caleb Williams, the guy is going to be a top 5 Heisman candidate next year. Why wouldn't he want to transfer?
Now with Caleb Williams, nothing's going to change with his draft stock. I don't care if he hands it off 70% of the time. Everyone already saw what he did this year. I guarantee no matter what.
Okay, but maybe he doesn't want to hand the ball off 70% of the time. True. I wouldn't if I was a quarterback.
But this is another thing what I want to get into is with the transfer with coaches. I think coaches need to be held to standards, and universities need to be held to a standard. If Lincoln Riley's on a 4-year contract, he can't leave till those 4 years are out. You can't fire him or get rid of him either. If you're committing, they're committing to that coach.
Okay.
So I think you shorten the coach contract.
So then what you're saying is you're against capitalism in the football realm.
Yeah, so don't lie to students. If you're going to be there, you're going to be there. Jim Harbaugh still has time on his contract.
So
Lincoln Riley still had 4, and he said yes.
So you're saying, as a football coach, let me get this right, that if you make and you sign a contract for 4 years, then you're stuck there for 4 years. Now let me ask you this, okay? What happens if you sign a contract, you come in and lay an egg? Does that mean that the university has to stick with you for 4 years? Because if you're going to say that they can't leave if they have success, then you're also saying they can't be fired because they're losing ball games.
I do think they should have a shorter contract, because I don't agree with these 8 years. What was John Gruden's contract? How many years was that?
10 years.
10 years. Too long for any coach.
That's what the market dictated.
But at the end of the day, is John Gruden there because of controversy? No. And when you go talk to these kids, you're basically saying, I'm going to be your guy. So I feel like there has to be something with the coaching that is tough. Now, if the coach is up front, and maybe it doesn't have to be disclosed to the public, big, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be gone in 2 years. but it should affect your draft class. It shouldn't affect whatever. It shouldn't affect after, because
right.
now this new coach is coming in, right?
Okay.
Into Oklahoma from Clemson. He was planning, most likely, that Kayla Williams is going to be his guy. He was building a team around a guy on scholarship.
He has a whole recruiting. He's got a whole year to recruit.
And for these other guys, though, and this is what I feel bad for, is you're managing an X amount of players on your roster.
Okay.
You're planning on them being there. In these smaller schools, you're doing your best to keep. Now, if a guy enters the transfer portal, let's say a month from now,
right,
and leaves you, and you were planning on him, and he goes to a bigger university, you might have just crippled that program depending on your position.
Okay.
And
I'll tell you what, Seth. You've made great points. I think that there should be some very, very new rules.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Okay? Do you believe that there's a lot of money that's being exchanged between kids and their family through the transfer portal?
So that would be illegal, but 100%.
There's nobody watching it.
It's true.
Now, I'm kind of killing my own argument here.
But that's what's so crazy, though. If you look at the Memphis James Wiseman in basketball,
okay,
most garbage NCAA fit that I've ever seen is James Wiseman was in like the 6th or 7th grade. Hardaway was not a coach of any team, but he was friends with the family and got him shoes in the 6th grade. That's why like James Wiseman was held ineligible, but he was considered a gift and tampering and recruiting.
Right.
Now,
well, that's different than the transfer portal.
Well, no, but it's the same thing of like money being transferred.
So
if money's going places.
I agree. So we've got a major problem, and a lot of people will agree with this. The NCAA, okay, is like basically a communist organization, and I don't want to use politics, but the NCAA controls everything.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair.
I don't think it's fair. I mean, now players are getting paid, so with a new deal that's been struck. But I think the big thing with the NCAA is they're quick to please people, but they don't think things through. Right now, if somebody wanted to exploit this transfer portal,
yes,
they could cheat and get their team all the way to number one. Yeah.
If there's 1,400 people in this transfer portal, I want to know how much money is being exchanged. Okay, you got to remember, alumni too. Alumni can get involved. This was the old way that they used to do it, okay? The alumni would do the old $100 handshake after the games. Or they'd buy them a car. They'd buy the mother a car. I guarantee you that that's going on right now through the transfer portal. All right, so is there anything else that you want to add to the transfer portal?
I just think the biggest thing in the transfer portal, the idea is right.
Okay.
It is very good for players that aren't getting playing time,
yes,
but the execution of these rules have left it where top-tier players, like Kayla Williams and everything, are hopping ship for no reason except
personal. Well,
and
that's all the reason they need. They're kids.
But you committed to that university. They used the scholarship, and they committed everything to you.
Okay, so Seth's point, and this is Seth's point. He's saying that once you commit to a university, then you're locked into them for 4 years.
Well, because my biggest thing with that is I could use that scholarship on somebody else that would have stayed with me.
Well, maybe.
But
hey, the fact is that this is a country. We live in a free country.
Mm-hmm.
You have the option to do whatever you want. Why should you be locked in? This isn't the Army. Okay, you're not joining the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines where you are committed. Are you?
I just think it shows the integrity of a player. Somebody says they're going to do something.
That's a whole nother issue. Now, the way Seth was raised, the way I was raised, the way my dad raised me was you made a commitment to the university. My dad told me when I was getting ready to transfer, and I was looking at transferring to Bloomsburg, I was also looking to transfer to Syracuse. I wouldn't have played. I would have just sat on it. But you know what? I knew all those guys. And you know what? For the rest of my life, I could say I played for Syracuse University. Was I good enough to make that team? Abso-friggin-lutely. Absolutely. Was I better to play? Would I have beaten Sherman Douglas out? No. But I would have sat there like a champ. You know what? I would have. And I would have been on every single broadcast. And you know what I'd be able to say for the rest of my life? I played for Syracuse University. Guess what? That's pretty cool. Now, I'm glad I stayed at Mansfield University. I'm glad that my dad raised me to stay committed.
Yeah.
And you know what, Seth? I respect that. All right, so let's talk real quick about Brothers. We're at Brothers Bar and Grill. We're up in the mezzanine section. Seth is the general manager. And Brothers is probably the best sports bar in northern Denver, maybe in the whole city. Tell them a little bit about why you think that your bar and grill is the best in Denver.
So we're not like your other places where like we put on a show for you with like crazy uniforms. What we are, we're just very sports oriented. We don't do any gimmicks. We have 40 beers on tap, so plenty of selection, full bar, pretty much anything. If you come in, here, let's talk about you right now. His favorite beer is Labatt Blue.
Yes.
And he asked me, hey, can we bring Labatt Blue on tap? It took a while, but I got it on within a couple weeks. So we're open to your suggestions. Every game is on. The pay-per-views for UFCs, we bring them in. And
no cover for pay-per-view.
We don't charge you at all. So,
which is incredible.
And like he said, the first time we met, if you guys watched our earlier shows, South Carolina, not a big draw, but when he came in, he said, hey, can I watch the South Carolina? He had his own TV, and we have pretty good food to go along with it. So, I mean, we're just very accommodating, and you want to watch your team, we'll support you. We'll even cheer with you. I cheered for South Carolina. I have no skin in the game, but I knew it was a big thing for Jim here, and I was like, you know what?
I agree.
I'll talk all your players with you, and I'll cheer with you, and it just makes it for a great sports experience.
So I'm a customer, right? And I'm new to this area of town. So I come in one day, and South Carolina had just beaten Georgia. Seth was so excited. He looked at me. He's like, "You're a South Carolina guy." I said, "Yeah." So I sat down, and I drink draft beer most of the time. And at the end of the day, because my team won, Seth comped all of my drinks. Now, do you think that? What do you think that did for me? It made me a lifetime customer. Okay, so if I wasn't doing the show here, I would be here, and I was here every Saturday, because the comfort food here is amazing. The sauces are amazing. The staff is amazing. So come down to Brothers. We're at the shops at Northfield. Basically, as you're driving I-70 West, it's on the right-hand side. You can see the Harkin Theater. You also can see Bass Pro Shops.
Yep.
And that is where Brothers is located. Come on in and check us out. Get off at the Quebec exit. You can get off at the Central Park exit. Come on over and check us out. Now, we're going to take a little break here because this show is running a little long right now. It's at 42 minutes. We're going to come back and talk about Super Wild Card Weekend. So please tune back in, and you'll see on our YouTube channel Dr. Jimbo Love. And the date today is the 15th. It's going to say Dr. Jimbo Love Remote 1/15/22, and this will be the first part. The second part, we are going to talk about the 6 games. Is it 6 games or 7 games?
6.
6 games that are going to occur. So please come back, and in the meantime, start making some plans to get down to Brothers. We're here. We're going to be here. The food's going to be here. The drinks are going to be here, and the TVs are always here.
Yep.
Thank you very much, and we'll be right back.